Peggy. Nils had an amazing ability to mask his depression. Although he was depressed underneath, sometimes you didn't know, you couldn't tell. I'm sure that his closest family was able to see through that. So I met Nils in 1992, and somehow we struck up a conversation and realized we were both born in St. Louis, of course. Our relationship was solidified when the St. Louis Cardinals came up. Lou Brock, Bob Gibson, for those of you who are baseball fans. And especially when I mentioned that I had met Stan Musial as a child because I went to school with his daughter. You know, as an aside, we were trying to figure out what Nils's code was to his phone to get in there to return the messages. And luckily, Bradley said the number of hits that Stan Musial made. So I want to say it was like 1,000.
3630.
3630. And that was that. Because I had tried twice, and the third time it was going to be a bomb, and we were going to be locked out, and that was going to be that. So that marked the beginning of a very long connection between Nils and I. So with that, I want to introduce Randy Clark, who is also a very good friend of Nils. Randy?
Known Nils since the 80s when I moved out here, worked together with him in Transamerica. And I guess it's gonna be hard.
Tissues, honey.
I can't get them out. You know, I know how it was for you, Eric and Bradley, but he was the brother I always wanted to have. You know, I remember meeting him, you know, having that, you know, despite all the depression and stuff, you know, he had, you know, this bright smile and a chipper tone of voice. And, you know, I first met him, he was always dressed to the nines, you know, with the fine shirt and the nice slacks and the good shoes. And he always portrayed positivity. And, you know, so, yeah, I kind of mimicked that, you know, I kind of learned to dress like him that way. You know, he spoke of the importance of nice clothing and stuff like that, and I don't, you know, you talked about the Christmas thing. I mean, he had some really fine Christmas clothes, you know, they put nice, you know, saddle shoes with the green and the tan, and he was just brilliant, yeah. So, yeah, and I was happy that I got taken to the Christmas fair last year, the year before last, because it was such a, you know, big deal for him. And I was lucky enough to be on his phone list. And, you know, even though I moved away from the Bay Area for a while, we had those weekly calls. And, you know, they weren't necessarily about anything, you know, the latest game, the latest joke, you know, some Three Stooges thing that you'd come across. But, you know, I always look forward to it. And, you know, we shared a lot. I grew up in Kansas City, so we had a whole lot to talk about the '85 World Series that he still objected to strenuously. And I also was at the game where Ricky Henderson broke Lou Brock's record, and Nils always poo-pooed that because he was stealing third base, and he was stealing third base, you know. And you know, then when I got sober in 2001, he was really supportive. You know, he was there to talk me through the stuff that I was dealing with, and it was very helpful. We went to the AA World Convention together in Toronto and in Atlanta. So you really felt a special connection there. But we bonded over our shared love of baseball and went to games together. Went to the '89 World Series together, and always going to the Giants and the A's, and in the last couple of years, he'd go to the Wednesday afternoon games at the Coliseum in Section 323, and just enjoy the afternoon. And he always had the scorebook. He kept score of every game he'd ever been to, and knew all the things that were going on. It was just a joy. The other thing, I guess that I didn't see a picture of it, but he was so proud of getting that his beloved Cardinals tattooed to his shoulder last year. Making that commitment. So happy about that. That was really nice. And despite and we had so many conversations about about how difficult it was, because I also get the depression thing too, and he had a really dark. We both had a very dark sense of humor about it, joking about the shotgun and blah blah blah. But we were always there for each other, right? And when he was down, I would call him. When I was down, he would call me. So there's a hole in my heart from there. Anyway, so Nils was I guess one thing I really want to share real quick, because he loved to travel, even though he was he would do it alone. He went to Iceland, and he went to Portugal, and he went to, and the one that's really the epitome of Nils for me, because it kind of captures all of it, is he decided one year to go to Cuba, and he brought baseball gear with him so that he could give it out to the kids that were playing in the fields. And he didn't speak Spanish, he didn't know any, he just went there. And he had to go through Panama and all this stuff. But just to have joy, to share happiness with people. And that was the kind of guy he was. I'm going to remember that a lot about him. So anyway, thanks for sharing your time, and God bless, I don't know.